Okay. Are we ready, Moment?
We are ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Harrisburg City Council work session. Today is Tuesday, March 16, 2021. My name is Wanda R.D. Williams. I'm the chair, and all city council members. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:30. Ms. Houston, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett,
Present.
Ms. Bowers,
Present.
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Madsen,
Here.
Mr. Majors, Mr. Majors, President Williams.
Present. Thank you, Ms. Houston.
Mhm.
We now will move on to committee business. We will begin the work session tonight with Building and Housing Committee. We have a presentation, a CAPER presentation by Lily Williams and Denise Hill, Building and Housing, from the Building and Housing Department. Ms. Williams, are you on tonight?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, I'll turn the meeting over to you. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to discuss the 2019 Consolidated Action and Evaluation Report, which is the CAPER. What is the CAPER? Chardin, if you can put up the presentation for me, please, so we can follow along.
Hang on one second.
Thank you.
One second. My apologies.
That's okay.
I had just the GIS part up. Hang on one second. Oh. Of course we need it. Okay. All right. Versus preview and choose.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're on the second page, and I'm just going to explain what the CAPER is. The CAPER is the City of Harrisburg. It runs from 2018 through 2022. Its consolidated plan is carried out through annual action plans, which is provided concise summary of the actions, activities, and the specific federal and non-federal resources that will be used each year to address the priorities, needs, and specific goals identified by the consolidated plan. The city reports on accomplishment, progress towards consolidated plan, goals, and the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, which is the CAPER. Page 3, the CAPER is required, yes, thank you. The CAPER is required by HUD. The CAPER includes a report of resources and investments, a report on goals and outcomes, a report on progress towards providing affordable housing, demographic composition of individuals and families, citizen participation efforts. Next page, please. The resources for CDBG funds, resources made available is 1.948354 million. The amount expended during the program year, and this program year runs from October 1st, 2019 till September 30th, 2020. And that is $722,193. Yes, right there. For home, it's $432,187 resources available. What was spent for the program year was $167,861. And for ESG was $166,243. And expended for that year was $119,405. As just a note, as you can see that a lot of the money was not spent due to COVID. During those years, the COVID was in effect, so that's why you don't see a lot of the subrecipients reporting into the invoices, and that's the main reason why the numbers are so much lower than normally they would be. Page 5, please. Okay, for goals and outcome, we have blight and demolition. We have goals of 5 buildings for demolished, and the outcome was 6 buildings demolished. For number 2, we have community development and public improvement. The goal was 12,000 person/public infrastructure. The outcome was $49,109, person assisted with public infrastructures. Number 3 was housing. The goal was 10 LMI households with homeowner housing rehab, and that was 14 was LMI houses we assisted. Number 4 was public services. Our goal was 2,500 LMI and special needs persons assisted. We assisted 146 LMI and special needs person assisted. And reduce homelessness. The goal was 400 homeless assisted, and we serviced 107 homeless assisted. Again, our numbers are a lot lower than expected, and that was due to the pandemic. I do anticipate the numbers to be a lot higher this coming fiscal year because everything that we have going on in effect right now. Next page, please. Household assisted with affordable housing. The number of households served through city program was 16. The rehab of existing units was 14 households. The rental assistance was 2 households with rapid rehousing ESG. The income levels for CDBG and home program reported income for extremely low was 6 households, 43%. Low income was 3 households, 21%. Moderate income, 5 households, 36%. Rental assistance with ESG was 2 households. This next page, please. The CAPER is available to the public. We did do a 15-day comment period, March 12th through March 27th. We will submit all information to HUD after the public comments have been submitted in. As of right now, we have not had any public comments as of today. And if you could show the handout. The handout basically just gives information with the numbers that I gave you with the different funding amounts and what we actually spent. And then Chardin, if you can put the demographic up when you get a chance, please. The demographics that you'll. Okay, so this is the handout, and this is just the numbers that I had previously made you aware of, and this is just the breakdown of it, so you can see the different handouts for the CAPER. I also have a demographic where you will see the different homes that we serviced in the Harrisburg area. We have some homes in the HRP program that we did the Uptown area and the Hill area. And you'll see those color coded in a second. So once this comes up, for the home improvement program, you will see an orange.
Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So in the orange, that is our HIP program, home improvement program, and we fund up to $30,000 per home. We have to bring it up we have to bring the home totally up to codes. So you'll see the uptown area in the orange we did, and then we also did some of the Allison Hill area in the orange as well. The green would be the HRP program, and we fund $15,000, and we have to do the minimum code requirements for that. And that is also the uptown area and the Allison Hill area as well. And you will see that in the green, and that's HRP, which is Housing Rehabilitation Program. And then the orange would be the Home Improvement Program. So again, the green, which is HRP, is up to $15,000, and we have to make it minimum code requirements. And then the orange would be the home improvement, and that is, we have to bring it totally up to codes, and that's a $30,000, up to $30,000 for a home in repairs. And that concludes our CAPER presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, and I'll go first.
Okay.
For those individuals who are not aware of what this CAPER program is, or for the first time hearing it, I'd like for you to identify the HIP and the HRP. How do they go about to get that assistance?
Okay, so for the HIP program, they would just have to apply. They would come to, they could either apply on the city website, DBHD Housing, and they would go to the HIP. It's a home improvement program for your home. You have to be within the income limits, and there is a breakdown of the income limits and application on the city website. We also can mail them out as well, or you can come to the city and pick it up. But we rehab your home. We can do roof, we can replace roofs, we can replace windows, furnaces, air conditioners, anything up to $30,000 for the HIP program. For the housing rehabilitation program, we just have to meet the code requirements, and we can fix the same thing, but it would just be up to $15,000, which we could do plumbing. We can do balconies coming up. Some people have, the balconies coming apart. They have windows, bad windows. We can replace windows. We can replace, electrical sockets. Anything that is, to better the home and bring it up to codes, those two programs would cover.
Okay. Also, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What happens to the money that is not expended from this time period of October 1st, 2019 to September the 30th, 2020?
Okay.
Because we are going to get additional monies. And so I'd like to know what's going to be, where's that additional expended money going to be?
Okay, so what we do is whatever money is not used for that program year, we roll it over to the following year.
Okay.
And then what we could do is service more homes. So as you could see, we didn't get a chance to do that many homes due to the pandemic, but now this year coming, we can service more homes and qualify more people. Right now, we have a waiting list of 50 people on the waiting list right now.
Okay.
So we are doing very good with our waiting list, and we can service more homes with rolling the money over to the new fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll ask about blight and demolition. You said you had, your goal was 5 buildings being demolished, but you did 6 buildings that were demolished. What is the total cost of doing demolition on a building or a home?
So right now,
per house.
So per house right now, the director wasn't in, so I don't have the total amount. I can get that back to you. But I do have the homes that we did. I do have the areas that we did, but I can get back to you on the amount that we told.
And also, could you, maybe not today, but could you get that information to me about the homes that you did and where you did those homes at?
I have that information. I have that.
You can
I just don't have the total price, but I can give you everything else. So we did 37 North 18th Street. We did 39 North 18th Street. We did 1707 Carnation Street, 1709 Carnation Street, 1711 Carnation Street, and 1713 Carnation Street.
Wow, those are some of the streets that I did submit. That's wonderful.
That's good news.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was out and about and I wanted to know what's going to happen. Okay, how about the uptown area?
So it looks like for the ones that were submitted in, it was just that area.
Okay,
Those addresses that I submitted to you.
okay. Um, my next question. I see your goal was for 400 homeless assisted. You did 177. So what particular shelters did we assist these 177 homeless individuals, residents in?
Okay, so we, for Shalom House, we did 53 individuals. For Christian Churches United, we did 13. And for YWCA, we did 111.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Um, So when we get the additional money in, are you going to be doing a bulletin out to the community, or how are you going to get that information disseminated out to the community? Because of course, a lot of people have been asking about the funding to do rehab in their homes. So how do you get that information out to the public?
So we do newsletters. We also post on the city website. We also last year we did mailings with the water bills. We submitted mailings also with the water bills.
Okay, well, thank you. What's the public infrastructure that you did, the improvements under the program here?
So what we did for total $49,109 was we serviced the Latino Hispanic American Community Center.
Okay, that's education, that goes under that.
Yes,
Okay.
and we also did the Heinz Menaker Senior Center.
Okay, and what did you do at the Heinz Menaker?
So it looks like the facility which we serve, it looks like here that we help with their bathroom remodeling
Okay, that's under.
and their kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams. And I want to say congratulations. You know, you've done a wonderful job.
Thank
You
you.
made it simpler this year to explain the program. If I've had any additional questions, I will certainly get in contact with you. I've not had an opportunity to read the whole performance and evaluation report. So I will be, contacting you after I read the report. But
Absolutely.
I commend you for doing an excellent work, and thank you for the rental system program that you had for the city of Harrisburg. You led that program, so I thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
You did an awesome job. Okay, council members, I'll start with Ms. Bowers. Do you have any questions to ask Ms. Williams?
No, thank you. Thanks, Ms. Williams, for your presentation this evening. I don't have any questions.
You're welcome.
Ms. Green?
Thank you, President Williams. You asked most of the questions that I had, so I don't have any questions right now. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Madsen?
No questions for me, thanks. Largely mine were out around outreach, and you went over those, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Alec?
No questions, but I think this was really good data to be able to share, so thanks for presenting it to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And is Mr. Majors on?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, good evening. Okay.
Yeah,
Any
good evening.
any questions, Mr. Majors?
And I apologize, I came in a little late. So for the applications for the hip and the harp, are they available in other languages, or are they just, the only one I see on the website is English, or is there someone who can provide assistance?
We have them in Spanish, and we have them in English as well. And we have two
Okay.
interpreters also in the office.
Okay. And okay, I just don't see it on the website, so I guess it's
Right now,
available though.
Yeah, we mail them out, we send them out. They also can pick
Okay.
them up, but we also submitted them into, they're revamping the site right now, so that'll be up on there.
Okay. And then for the demolitions, are those just are demolitions done through the program, or does that encompass all of, that's just not the
No, just-
whole city
Yeah,
demo,
the
just
ones
the,
that receive CDBG funds.
okay. Yeah, and then if you can get us the cost per demo, because I know that's one of the things that has been prohibitive to us in the past, since we have quite a large demolition list in the city.
Absolutely.
And And then what is the performance period on the funds? So, I know you said they're rolling over for some of for the hip and the harp, and when we do rehabs, is there a performance period so that we don't miss out on funds if we roll over too many times?
So it would be 5 years.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time to spend the money. So what we do is we always spend the older money first before the newer money, so the clock, doesn't run out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate all the work that you've done, and that information that you provide to President Williams would be helpful. So thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. Ms. Daniels?
I think they already asked the questions.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Williams.
You're welcome.
I do have one additional question. Because we have a large number of blighted homes, what is your goal for the upcoming year?
For the upcoming year, Eric, are you on? I don't know if
I'm here. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry,
Eric,
what was the question?
would you happen to have that number in front of you, the blighted demolition for the goals for the upcoming year?
I can in just 2 seconds. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Eric is our TA, that he'll be able to help. Unfortunately, I didn't have that in front of me. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And could you also designate the location of those homes that you plan to do in your goals for the
Yes, so the goal for the 2020 program year, which started back in October 1, and so we're in the 2020 program year, the goal was just 5 properties for demolition, but we have not identified specific properties at this time.
Okay.
So Dave, the codes director, I can try to get with him tomorrow. He wasn't in, he comes back tomorrow. I can get with him and see if I can get
Mr.
that.
Patton?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's been several homes in the Allison here area that have been an eyesore, and also the chief has designated them to come down. I say we were out the last time in the Hill about 3 weeks ago, and we still have them same homes there, and they've been there, since I've been on council. They should have came down long before that. So I just like to know a history of when we're going to take those additional homes down.
Okay. I'll try to get that information for you.
Okay. And especially the home on Real Street. He was supposed to take that, Lexington Street,
Lexington.
2600 block Lexington, where the fire was.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams, and I appreciate all the information that you disseminate to us, and
You're
look
welcome.
forward to hearing and receiving the other information.
Will do.
Okay, we now will move on to Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Allett.
Hey.
Good evening.
Yes, up for discussion first is Bill 2 of 2021. Sharon, will you go ahead and read that into record for me?
One second, hang on here. I have too many.
Too many screens up?
I do. Yeah. Okay, so Bill 2 of 2021, an ordinance authorizing and directing the creation of an irrevocable special trust to be designated as the OBEB Trust Fund for the purpose of depositing and segregating funds to be restricted and used for other post-element benefit obligations of the city and related administrative costs of the trust, providing for the appointment of a board of trustees to oversee the OBEB Trust Fund in accordance with the approved Act 47 Recovery Plan and any amendment thereto, providing for the board to contract for services of a trust professional, authorizing the execution of a trust agreement and related documents, authorizing the acceptance and deposit of designated funds provided through certain asset transfers under the Harrisburg Strong Plan, and adopting a charter and bylaws of the OBEB Board of Trustees so as to operate in accordance with the recommendations of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board as provided in GASB Statement Number 74 and GASB Statement Number 75.
Thank you, Chardin. Now, I know this has been a big condition of exiting Act 47, so I know that's something that we needed to put into effect. But first, from the administration, Neil, are you going to explain a little bit of the background or at least the legality of this?
Sure. This has been a long time in the making. It started with a review by the receiver's legal team. It went to a review by outside counsel for them, outside counsel for the Commonwealth, in-house counsel for the Commonwealth, in-house counsel here, and outside counsel here. There's not a lot of these floating around out there. It's a concept that is promoted as a good financial tool for municipalities to recognize long-term obligations that they have to retirees and their families that are generally unfunded. And so they're the unfunded mandates on local governments through union contracts and pension plans for non-pension items like healthcare. Essentially, it is the healthcare coverage. The trust was created as part of the Strong Plan and approved by the Commonwealth Board of Pennsylvania back in 2013. The money was provided to the receiver and then transferred to the coordinator, and ultimately we transferred to the Board of Trustees with a trustee to cover the money. In reality, it's a lot of money for an initial trust. I think it's 3.3 million, I think, and interest at this point. On the other hand, it woefully underfunds the trust you would need to fully pay for the long-term OPEB liabilities, which are 9 figures, after you read the city audit. And that puts us in a fairly typical place in terms of those long-term liabilities. The plan requires, based on the receiver's design and the court's approval, representatives each of the 3 unions to be on the board as trustees, 2 appointments by the mayor, 2 appointments by city council, 2 appointments by the recovery coordinator, for a total of 9. And if there is no longer a recovery coordinator because we exit Act 47, it provides that those are the mayor's appointments. And that's basically the design that we were handed in draft form quite some time ago. There are some related documents that are prepared, including a very simple charter for the board with bylaws. There is a draft trust agreement, but really can't be entered into until we get to an actual board appointed. Under the existing court order with Judge Ledbetter, the trustee board has to come back to her once they're created and make the application to have the funds released to them. So that's the order that exists right now. I don't know if that order will be modified or not, but that is my understanding. And I recently had a conversation with counsel for the Commonwealth to that effect. That would stay there. It's one of the reasons we need the court to retain jurisdiction over certain matters, even when we leave Act 47, so that those steps can be carried out. But this is the first step you need to do to authorize the creation of a trust. What becomes very clear is that it is not city money. It's a true irrevocable trust that goes into a pot of money that can't be tapped for other things. The board would be charged with coming up with a manner in which to use the funds, and because it's an underfunded trust, those decisions have to get made with some serious counsel. They'll need a financial professional and an attorney to give them guidance that is separate from us. Is
that paid for out of the trust that's been set aside?
That would be the administrative cost from the trust would cover that. The city would have the right to make contributions to the trust. If the council and a mayor in the future said we're going to give, $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year to this trust, it would have the ability to do that. It would then become irrevocable as well. But first it has to exist, and then mayors and councils have to make those decisions in the future based on other funding obligations. Whether it offsets the co-pays for retirees, whether it pays for prescriptions for retirees, whether it pays for only catastrophic cases. I mean, those are the decisions the Board of Trustees would have to make on how to use the funds. And, that's what they will be empowered to do. But this is the last main component from the Strong Plan that is out there. is both in Act 47 now, it's in Act 124, and it'll be part of the application to exit with the court as we move forward.
So upon passage, upon council ratifying this bill, then the next step would be for the appointments to be made. So we would have each of the labor unions, they would select their person, then we would have the council and the mayor appointments. Is
Right.
there a timeline or like something that is in effect other than the fact that once this is done, we just have to go about doing it?
We just have to go about doing it. There could be a couple other resolutions. There would definitely be the resolution of council approving the trust agreement, but there's not a whole lot of sense in approving a trust agreement when the people the agreement with don't exist yet as a board. So we've been, the unions, all three unions in labor management, we have been talking over the years about their upcoming designee to this board. So they're aware of it, and they have to make a decision. And it's not a small thing to be a trustee with a fiduciary obligation, as part of your union activity. So, they take it very seriously as far as I can see.
And in terms of the, is there any stipulation in terms of, we know that the appointments to create the size, but in thinking about pulling all those individuals together, is there a stipulation that it's not fully an advisory or trustee until it's fully appointed?
So there'll be the ability for majority and votes and things like that. But what they will have to do, which is sort of what the pension board does, they will have to actually get a professional trustee. So while they're trustees on the board, an institution is going to have to handle the money and be the trustee, just like if you create a trust in the family and got a bank to be the trustee. So there'll be where seats open and close. The bylaws in theory could change over time, like any institution, because they will, again, be separate from us. Some of that will be in the final court order language about how much discretion they do and do not have. And there'll be two court orders. So the Exit Act 47 order, and then the petition to release the money order. So there'll be two court orders that come with this over time.
So this what do you call it? This trust that we're setting up is truly then an autonomous, independent agent of the city. For instance, like they don't report back to city council like many of our other commissions and boards do. Is that a correct assessment?
They do not. The idea was so because they have fiduciary obligations, just like the pension board doesn't come back and ask council or the mayor for approval for anything, because those individuals are subject to, their own liabilities if they aren't properly handling the funds. So, and that was very much the design from the receiver, that it be separate and independent from the city. I've not seen a creative solution to get additional funds into it. And I don't mean just here, I haven't seen one. There could be something out there, but other municipalities, I'm aware, started them with a whole lot less money than we happen to be putting in right now.
Are there any other comments from the administration standpoint to this end?
No, but any questions you have, and Marita Kelly, our recovery coordinator, is online here.
I saw her face pop up, so I was gonna give her a minute if she had anything that she wanted to add. Marita, do you have anything that you wanted to add to this discussion at this point?
No, I think Mr. Grover covered the materials very thoroughly, and we've had a few discussions, and as he said, we've shared documents to try to make this an expeditious process. I mean, once we got our ball rolling, there was so many other things in the plan that came before this. So it took us some time for Neil and I to sit down and have a serious discussion. But once we did, things started moving rather swiftly. So I think what's before you is thorough and complete. And I have worked with other municipalities in Pennsylvania in forming these trusts, and it's a fairly formal and an appropriate mechanism for the council to consider. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Very good. I'm going to open up to my colleagues on questions, and if we're sitting on the dais, I'll start with my far right with Councilmember Daniels.
Thank you. So, Neil, do you mind repeating again how much money is in the OPEB, will be in the OPEB trust?
I believe it's 3.3. It has been earning interest all this time. So Marita may have a statement much more current than I do, but I believe it's 3.3 that was set aside by the receiver.
Okay.
That's correct. You said it might be slightly more. I don't have the exact statement in front of me, but it's 3.3 million that'll be transferred to the trust once everything is formalized.
Okay. And at the time that 3.3 million, that, from my understanding, that didn't fully cover what the expected anticipated amount this trust might eventually need. So have there been thoughts about how we're adding money to this trust so that when we have to start paying out on these benefits, that we are fully covered?
So first, we always pay out on these benefits right now. It's not something just for the future. We pay out OPEB liabilities. We fund retirees' medical costs under union contracts. I think, and this is not an exact number, maybe Mark would know a better number than I, but I'm going to say right now it's between 130 and 160 million dollars of liability extrapolated out by auditors. So obviously that fund would never have the ability to fully fund, and it changes every year based on formulas. So I think it's going to be up to councils and the mayors of the future to decide, working with the OPEB trust board, depending how the money is used really depends on what's the responsible way to use it is. And there is no one theory on the best way to handle the money. And I think I mentioned there's a couple different options. You could do it only for catastrophic losses and the trust would evaporate pretty quickly with a couple patients who are on terminal illnesses or things like that. Or you could do it for prescription potentially. You could do it for copays potentially. So those decisions have to be made by that board. And then I think we would then see, based on the mechanism, whether how the city would contribute to that. For example, just hypothetically, let's say it's copays. You don't want to eliminate the whole fund, in some quick manner. If they had a formula for the year, in theory, the city could come to an agreement that says we will contribute under this formula X percentage that you're distributing to that. But that is really a negotiation on the other side for, I think, other people on another day. I don't think we will know until we're really there and they have the boards actually function.
And it's been a while since I looked at the OPEB stuff, but just remind me, it's only for current members of collective bargaining agreements, right? So like free riders on collective bargaining agreements, they don't get benefits under it.
I don't know about free riders because that decision didn't exist when this was created, and it's still being interpreted. But right now there's plenty of retirees and spouses and significant others that would be covered under the various union contracts in retirement with their benefits. For example, the police have always gotten, until the contract changed, if you retired with certain benefits, those benefits stay there the rest of your life. So if you had full coverage for your spouse till your death or their death or whichever is later, that coverage stays. Now sometimes more modern ones offset once you're eligible for Medicare, it stops and things like that. But all of those are going to be factored in as you go forward, as will some changes in union contracts over the years and changes in, for example, the ACA. All of those things will factor in to what the risk and cost of that fund will have to be. And it'll always be, unless something's dramatically different, much higher than the trust could ever just sort of fully secure it anyway. So the city's already making the payments, so it sort of supplements what we pay in some way. And it won't be a huge supplement, but it'll be some supplement.
Okay. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Majors.
Yes. So one of the questions I have regarding the composition is the language in there. I guess that's section 2-713.6 regarding what happens to appointments once there's a vacancy and we no longer have, if there's no longer a receiver. Is that standard that both would go to the mayor, or since the mayor has 2 appointments and council has 2, could they be split to have those appointments be for one, so each entity would have 3.
I believe that's taken word for word from what was approved by the court. I can double check that.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
can pull that one out of the air. That language was there for us. So.
Okay. All right. No other questions. No other questions at this time.
Thank you. Council President. You're on mute, my friend.
I know. Thank you, Mr. Alec. Neil, how many years will this be in existence, and when will we be able to dissolve this OPEC trust?
One, we cannot dissolve it, I don't think.
Because the courts have stated, I know it was under that strong plan, but how
Right,
long
so-
will it be? How many years will it be in existence? Is there a term limit?
At this point in time, I'd say I would not anticipate a limit in time. There could be under the IRS code, which is what they would need their tax advisor to tell them. There are some trusts and there are some other financial structures that are quasi-public, that put time limits that require renewal. But that wasn't the lens that I was looking at when I was reading the background on this. Obviously, and I'll go back to the example, if they decided that the best use of their funds was to cover catastrophic losses, they wouldn't have a lot of funds very long to do it. They would run out of funds early. But if you think of them as sort of a companion to the pension board, we don't think of the pension board going out of business.
Okay. Since they will have fiduciary responsibilities, will everyone who becomes a member be bonded?
They will have to be not only bonded, but bondable.
Okay, that's my question.
They have to be able to be bonded.
Okay, that sounds good to me. One more question, and I was thinking on the same level as Mr. Majors about any vacancy of a board seat originally made by the recovery shall be made by the mayor. How about any board seat that is vacant by city council or vacant by any of the unions? Will they have an opportunity to reselect another individual to seat on that board, on that trust fund?
So this comes down to the fact that they'll be independent.
Okay.
Why this is an initial board.
Okay.
So the board is going to have to adopt and will be subject to be able to change bylaws as long as they don't violate it.
So they're going to incorporate their own bylaws.
Right. And so we will recommend some to the initial one, but we can't usurp their authority or they won't be independent.
Will we vote on it? Will council have an opportunity to vote on those bylaws, or do we not have any?
Right. You're going to get a resolution that has a proposed draft agreement, but it's premature, and that'll have the proposed draft charter and the proposed draft bylaws with it. But again, it's sort of premature because, we have to take it past the ordinance and then get a final order from the court related to the exiting Act 47 and the next steps.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Alec.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Madsen.
Yeah, so my question is, we have a few other boards or entities that review the city's budget. Can you maybe talk about how potentially that relationship could work with the trust board? For example, we have the audit committee, there's also the ICA. Any sense on what collaboration or what that would look like between these different agencies?
Honestly, I don't have that because first they have to sort of create their own structure. I would think they would interact because they're going to need the information. For example, the audit committee picks the auditor. The auditor ultimately has to do the calculation on OPEB trust liabilities. So you can't have the OPEB trust board separate on information from them. So that's probably going to be part of their requirements. They are also, like every public agency, be subject to annual audit, independent audit by an audit firm. So they're going to have that obligation as well. And so that will be public information as they go forward. I don't really have a good imagined interaction because the board doesn't exist yet. And some of that will just have to be worked out as they're going forward.
Okay. And then how would this work in conjunction with contract negotiations? would a board member that say is represented by the union, would that be a conflict of interest? And yeah, that's sort of some question.
Fair question. I don't know the answer to that. And I think they're going to have their own legal counsel as a board and about what the conflicts are, whether there are things they have to refrain from. For example, could they be an OPEB trust board member and an e-board member for the union? I will note on the pension board, that's exactly what we have. We have for the police, we have leadership from the union are also part of the pension board. For PMRS, we have fire service members who are part of that board. So it doesn't seem it's precluded, but there's going to have to be some lines drawn when it's there. But I don't think they would have the equivalent of a grievance related to being on the OPEB trust board. It wouldn't really be the same thing because it's the union appointing them, not us appointing them. So it wasn't an employer action that did it. It would be a union action that did it.
Yeah, I'd be curious if somebody was, say, receiving a pension from the city, but they were also serving on this board, would that be some sort of conflict of interest?
I don't know. I mean, I hadn't frankly got that far. Though the ordinance very clearly says they cannot engage in conflicts of interest. And the State Ethics Act determines what conflicts of interest are. And they would be subject to that. Would they have to recuse themselves from that vote? I don't know. I don't think the intention, just like the police can't vote on their own pension on the police pension board, obviously, but they can certainly vote on the pensions of others. But when they vote for example, picking an investment advisor, obviously their future is affected by that decision, but that's not considered a conflict. That's because of that fiduciary obligation. That higher standard holds them, personally, legally responsible. Which that's why it's a significant responsibility when you take on a fiduciary obligation.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Green. I'm forgetting who's on the end now.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowers.
I'm on the end, but thank you. I don't
I
have
thought you were on the end. It's been that long since we've been together. Is that crazy?
It's been that long. I don't have any additional questions. Many of mine were already asked, so thank you.
Thank you. My only follow-up question, Neil, because this is a bill, this was first reading, do we need to have bring this into another public hearing prior to putting it up for a vote?
No, you can have at that next meeting, the way the rules work, it's the second reading and the final reading at the same meeting. Okay. So this is not subject to a separate public hearing.
Okay, very good. Well, I will go ahead and move this for consideration of a vote at our next legislative session next Tuesday. And then in terms of moving on to our next agenda item, we have, let me back out to that screen, Resolution 23 of 2021. Shannon, I'll go ahead and read it. It's short. A Resolution 23 of 2021 is a resolution supporting the participation of the city of Harrisburg in the formation of a new joint transportation authority. I know that I saw some of our folks from Cat and Rabbit on with us tonight, but let's first start with the administration. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this from the administration standpoint first? No?
I think Rich Kotz is on.
Yep, I saw Rich and I saw Rich as well. Both Rich, Kotz and Rich Farr.
Oh, Rich Farr, yes.
So I will actually just turn over. Who wants to go first? Rich Kotz or Rich Farr? Who wants to lead off with discussion?
We let Rich start off. I was going to say, since Rich is the board member, I'd let him go first. So we did do a presentation a couple of weeks ago in great detail, walking through all of our efforts that we've been going through really for more than a decade and a half, but more specifically in the last 3 years. And so at this point, Adams County and Dauphin County have passed their resolutions for the joint authority. York County is going tomorrow, and I believe Cumberland County next week. So all the partners are coming on board and passing these needed resolutions to do that. Once this resolution is passed by all the partners, we will, on behalf of all the partners, advertise it and file it with the Secretary of State, and then we'll have then created the new authority 30 days after that. So that's kind of where we are in the process. Things continue to move very well, positively moving forward, and everything seems to be on track.
Good. Much to the benefit of sitting through your presentation a few weeks ago, I don't know that I have any immediate questions right now, but the timeline was helpful. Did Dauphin County bring it up for a vote yet or no?
Yes, we have their signed resolution, and Adams County has been completed too. They're the two partners that are done so far. So
You said Cumberland County was next week?
Yep, in York tomorrow.
Very good. Yeah, I don't have any huge questions because we especially since we had the presentation not that long, it's fresh in my mind, but I will turn over to questions. This time I'll start at the end with Councilmember Bowers. We'll go in that direction this time.
Okay, thank you. Like you, I don't have any additional questions. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Green.
Thank you. No, I don't have any further questions at this time. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Madsen.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Council President.
I'm sorry.
Your turn.
Okay.
Questions.
Hi, Rich. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I didn't remember if we are going, now this is a new board, so are we going to add additional board members? Will we be adding additional board members?
Yeah, there'll be 2 board members added to this new board from the city.
Okay. So we'll have 3 votes on there? 3
No,
board?
two from, okay. 2 from Harrisburg, 2 from Dauphin.
Right. We still have the same, okay. So we still have a vacancy, right? We have Bruce Weber vacancy?
No, Bruce is still on. His appointment has not ended yet.
Okay.
So he has, I think, 1 more year on the CAT board.
Oh, okay. All right.
And those board positions will continue because remember, we're not dissolving CAT.
Right.
That authority is going to continue. So we'll have to come back to you folks for board appointments for those positions.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. I don't have any further questions.
Councilmember Majors.
Yes, and thank you, Rich. I said the presentation you did for us was very helpful, and we had an opportunity to meet and talk about this as well. So just for the public, could you go through, you alluded to the appointments for Harrisburg and Dauphin County, but can you just go through the appointments for each of those individual, and each of the counties and participants that will be a part of this newly formed authority should it pass?
Yes. So again, we looked at a whole bunch of statistics, primarily ended up on population, total number of trips, local match contribution are the 3 large ones. And so based on that, Adams County gets 1 vote, City of Harrisburg gets 2, Cumberland County gets 2, Dauphin County gets 2, York County gets 3, Franklin County as an advisory member at this time. They want to start fixed route, but they will not have a vote until they begin contributing local match, which would then most likely be 1 vote similar to Adams County, because they would be respectively about the same size. And so that is the makeup of the new Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority Board proposed.
Okay. That was the last one was Franklin, correct?
Right, as sort of as an ad hoc member.
As an ad hoc, right. Right, so we're looking at 6. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful. I just want folks to know that, the majority of the ridership for this is still Harrisburg/Dauphin County. So we're still reflected on the board and that new makeup. Like I said, the presentation was extremely helpful. And this isn't necessarily for you, but is that presentation on I think it's in our meeting minutes, so it's available for the public. That's correct. Vice President.
Yes, and you can also find it at cattransit.com under About Us.
Okay.
So cattransit.com About Us.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I just want folks that may not have had an opportunity to take a look at the presentation, know where to find it and make that accessible. But thank you, and no further questions.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to last but not least, Councilmember Daniels.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you, gentlemen. We will definitely put this up for the agenda for next Tuesday for a vote, and maybe we'll beat Cumberland County to the punch.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, have a great night, guys. All right, that actually concludes the Budget and Finance agenda items for tonight. I will turn it back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. We now will move on to Community and Economic Development Committee. Mr. Mattson,
Thanks, President Williams.
you're welcome.
Ms. Houston, could you read Resolution 17 into the record?
Resolution 17 of 2021 is a resolution approving a preliminary final land development plan to convert an existing industrial property into a mixed-use building featuring 5 residential units with first floor commercial space located at 1507 North 3rd Street.
Okay, is there someone from the presentation, or excuse me, from the administration to present the plan?
Yes, sir. Councilman Mattson, Jeffrey Knight, Planning Director.
Hello, Mr. Knight. Is the applicant present?
I am here.
Okay, could you state your name and title for the record?
Yeah, my name is Nathaniel Foote, and my title is sole member president of 3rd Street Realty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so the application before City Council tonight is a land development plan proposal for the conversion of the property at 1507 North 3rd Street, commonly known as the Carpets and Draperies Building, into a mixed-use building. There will be a small commercial space on the street facing first floor. There will be 5 overall apartment units in the building, 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second, and 1 on the 3rd floor. Council members are probably aware of this building. It kind of sits alone on that block of fronting North 3rd Street. There's the smaller building kind of toward the end, towards the VOA apartments, but it's been vacant for a fairly long time per the city's records. I don't believe there's been an active business there for about 15 years. In the intervening time, I'm only aware of 2 proposals for the building, one being a child care center in the late 2000s, I believe. And then more recently in 2014, there was a proposal to establish a distillery. The distillery proposal did not make it through the variance application process. And so that project didn't move forward. This project, however, has received the requisite zoning relief from the zoning hearing board. And so they're moving ahead with the final part of this project, which is the tonight's land development plan. With respect to the recommendation from the Planning Commission, both the Planning Bureau and the Planning Commission recommended that the request be approved with the following conditions. Any new signage to advertise the business in the proposed first floor commercial space will be in conformance with the applicable regulations of the zoning code, or if not, will receive approval for a zoning relief request as necessary from the zoning hearing board. The applicant will coordinate with the Department of Public Works to ensure that the account billing reflects the establishment of active uses on site. The Bureau recommends that the applicant consider either sharing dumpsters with adjacent commercial uses along Riley Street or making a required dumpster accessible via the adjacent surface parking lot. And I think that's something that the applicant would work directly with Department of Public Works on. The Planning Bureau would recommend that the applicant coordinate with the owner of the adjacent surface parking lot to coordinate on the installation of bike racks in the pedestrian access space between the parking spaces and the subject property. So just to the north of this property, because the building occupies the entirety of the parcel, or at least the entire width of the parcel, the applicant will be using the property directly to the north to provide access to the side of the building. Where there will be an entrance to some of the residential units. That area right now is just a surface parking lot. I don't think it's very heavily used, but the applicant has secured parking spaces for the use in that lot, not required by the zoning code, but the applicant certainly looking ahead to making sure that that the project doesn't create adverse impacts on on-street parking in the surrounding neighborhood. So there's a space between where the parking stops are and the building is, and it seems like it's sufficient space to put in some bike racks, for example, in order to, again, kind of work on the long-term goals of encouraging more active transportation in the neighborhood, although that would really be reliant upon an agreement with that property owner. And then finally, the final LDP plan set will be certified by a professional engineer, architect, or surveyor. And this came up just because there were a couple deficiencies in the initial plan set submission. So that was added by the Planning Commission, and the applicant has provided that updated documentation, which I believe all the council members have. The Planning Bureau and the Planning Commission both recommend that the request be approved for the following reasons. The proposed project will adaptively reuse a long vacant building which has had a blighting influence on the corridor, and assuring that a historically and architecturally significant property finds a viable use that will ensure its maintenance and preservation moving forward. The proposal will add new residents to the neighborhood and activate the street and surrounding neighborhood on nights and weekends, and grow a customer base to support local businesses. And as demonstrated by the letters of support accompanying the concurrent variance application, the applicant has coordinated with a variety of different community partners in undertaking this project, including the Historic Harrisburg Association and Sprocket Mural Works, which will be working with the applicant towards the installation of a mural on site during the 2021 Harrisburg Mural Fest. With that, I will hand it back to you, Councilman Madsen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Knight. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
I think Mr. Knight did a great job of summarizing the project. And actually, I'm glad to report in anticipation of starting work on the building in the next month or so, I posted it last night, and I've already gotten a number of inquiries for the commercial space from a great variety of businesses. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a great addition to that part of 3rd Street.
Oh, it leads me right to one of my questions. I was kind of curious about the commercial space. You don't have to tell us their names, but just out of curiosity, what are the types of businesses that are interested in locating there?
So and again, I posted it literally last night at 9 o'clock, and I heard from a bakery, a potential sandwich shop, a salon owner, and a potential art gallery tenant. So just since last night, and I don't know how real those inquiries are yet, but I was encouraged by the rapid response. So.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I'd encourage you to do is we do have a few incubators in that area in the Broad Street Market, and then we have La Cultura right down the street there as well. That's trying to serve as that incubator space, and a lot of inspiring entrepreneurs occupy that area. So if there's any outreach you could do to them, I'd strongly encourage you to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I posted on Facebook in the Midtown Facebook group last night too, and I think that generated some comments and shares, and so and people know where to find me. I put my email address in the Berg article that featured the project, and folks are welcome to reach out.
Great. Well, sounds like the word's getting out. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Next question is, will any of the units be below market rate?
So there's going to be one unit that's smaller than the rest. So there are going to be 5 total units. I have one, they're all going to be 2-bedroom. The smallest unit, my plan is to keep under $1,000 a month for 2 bedrooms, which I think is below market rate, given that now in Midtown, I'm typically looking at 2 bedrooms in the 1,200 plus range. I intend to have one that's considerably below that. The others I do intend to charge market rate and above. And I think the building will have some features that'll help attract tenants as well. With the big windows, if you know the building, I mean, it's pretty neat, especially from the inside.
I've never had the privilege to see the inside, but I've walked by the outside many a time.
Yeah. Well, it's not that impressive right now. It's
No.
it's deteriorating pretty badly inside, but
yeah. No, I'm glad something's being done with it. And then for construction or rehabilitation, will there be any opportunities for local small business MWBE participation?
Yes. So I have a general contractor, obviously, who's running it, but I know that he hires a lot of local contractors from the city, and more than 20% of them are minority-owned businesses. And he's told me that will hold true for this project as well. So there'll be, I think, most of the or much of the work will be done by people from the city.
That's great. Any and all opportunities you have for us to share that information for local small business, please share that so we can help you get the word out. And same thing goes for the commercial space. Sounds like you're already doing some of that, but happy to share through our networks as well.
Yeah, people are welcome to email me and call, and I try to make a point of getting back to everybody.
Understood. Thank you. I actually attended one of the town halls that went over the project, so I appreciated the outreach there and taking the feedback from the community proactively. So I don't have any additional questions, so I'll open it up to my colleagues, and I will start as if we were on the dais at the far end with Councilwoman Daniels.
Thank you. With regard to the commercial spaces, do you have a formal application process? Do you know how you will be accepting those businesses, and what are your outreach? What do you think your outreach efforts are going to be in addition to the Facebook postings and the Berg that you mentioned?
Well, so I posted on, and let me be clear, this isn't my first time ever trying to lease a commercial space. This is not something I do with frequency. So I posted on LoopNet, which is typically how sort of the marketplace, like the Zillow for commercial leasing and purchasing. So I posted on there so anybody can see it. You go into LoopNet, you can see the listing, or you can also just contact me directly. I don't have any formal process for soliciting tenancy. Anybody who's interested and serious, I would consider them as a tenant. I think I'm open to a wide variety of businesses and uses and tenants as long as they seem serious and they can sort of survive in the space. I mean, I'll have to give some consideration to that, and then pay the rent basically.
So for the commercial space, are you planning to charge an amount per square foot, or will the kind of business affect the rental amount?
I'm aiming for $15 a square foot, which based on my research is pretty consistent with the neighborhood. But it could change. And obviously depending on the use, there may be a more expensive build out. Like if there's some sort of a food related business in there, that'll obviously be more costly than if it's a gallery that would basically just be, paintings on the walls kind of thing, or a different kind of retail space. So that'll have to be flexible, and I'll just have to negotiate that with whatever tenant is interested. Again, I'm flexible. I mean, if I think there's a use that would be good for the neighborhood and that I think will be a cool addition to Midtown, I'm happy to do a more extensive build out than I had anticipated.
And based on your business plan, what's your goal in terms of having the commercial as well as the residential units occupied?
You mean?
Yeah.
You mean like the percentage of occupancy?
What percentage, and also by when do you see yourself needing to have all of the spaces, or whatever the occupancy rate you need to do to break even?
Yeah, well, I really need to, and my goal is to have everything leased pretty much right away. The commercial space I can have done. This is according to my contractor. We all know how that goes, right? He says he can probably have the commercial space ready in the next couple months, well before the residential space. So our goal will be to get the commercial space on the first floor done, and then assuming necessary approvals and safety and everything, put a tenant in the first floor and then finish out the residential spaces between June and the fall. And the goal is to have the building done mid-fall, early fall, hopefully, and then lease out the residential spaces. And I'm hoping by then I'll have a commercial tenant.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors?
Yes, thank you. Well, and good to see you, Daniel. I actually, saw that he was. I was out yesterday and actually saw. Well, I think it was over the weekend, and saw him, in the neighborhood and talking to folks, and saw you in front of the coffee shop as you were, I think, looking around in Midtown, and didn't know that actually this was your project until I was reading through our agenda. So you are. All right, so I'm glad to hear that you're at least going to consider having one below market rate and are looking to work with MPE, WEs. As for the the contractor and everything. You said he does have a track record of working with folks in the city. That's
Yeah, you guys, I think you guys probably know who he is because he's working on a number of other projects. But Harrisburg Commercial Interiors, they're doing it's the structure in the corner of 6th and Maclay. I cannot remember the name of that building, but that's a fairly large project. In addition to some other projects along 3rd Street, sort of around this structure, along with the Bryce family, who in City House Bed and Breakfast, and they've proposed a number of apartment units, a community center, some townhouses, and so he's working on a bunch of stuff in the city right now.
okay. And then looking through, looks like there's a comment from the city engineer regarding the sidewalk in front of the property. Are you looking to be able to address that as you move through this project?
Yeah, that will have to be fixed. I mean, so the sidewalk's in bad shape. There's also there's a like sort of a large metal cover of like the basement entrance that'll have to be moved or repaired or covered. So I absolutely intend to do that. There was also a comment at the Planning Commission about adding some more greenery potentially. So that's something we'll look to do too, because there is a tree there, but between sort of the Big Brothers Big Sisters building there and the corner of Riley Street, there really isn't any other greenery, at least not on that side. So I'd like to add some more maybe trees or shrubs in front as well.
Okay, yeah. Anything you can do to help with running some additional pervious surface would be great. So no additional questions as long as the comments from the city engineer are able to be addressed. I think that I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Majors. Vice President Allen.
Thank you. So this project is important to me on a personal level. I live 2 blocks from it, and I literally walk by or drive by this structure every day. And I think I've lived in the neighborhood for 20 years, and it's one of those things where, you know how you walk by and you see something, you're like, that really could be something. And I'm not that creative one person to come up with what that something is. So first, thanks for making that building something, because I've always thought it was a cool building. And I really am excited when people take chances on buildings that have looked run down to kind of renew them to what they once were. So thanks for the efforts to do that. I do want to echo my colleagues' sentiments. I strongly consider having one of those units to be at market value. One of the things I love about this neighborhood is that it really is such a mixed use neighborhood with a mixture of style of living, combinations from townhouse to apartment style to everything in between. And I think that's what kind of makes the neighborhood kind of cool. So no other questions I have, but thanks for doing it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I also live in the neighborhood, by the way. I live just a couple blocks away myself. And my interest in the building is largely derived from the fact that I too walk or drive by it pretty much every day and thought the same thing you did. This place looks a really neat, piece of Midtown and piece of Midtown history. And
without a doubt.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I decided to do it, or at least try to do it. And I've been able to pull together a good team and get the financing. And so far the approvals have gone smoothly. So far it's coming together.
Good deal. Again, thanks for what you're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you. President Williams?
I have no questions. Thank you. I just echo the same comments as my other council members. I've been riding by that area for such a long time, and I always said the same thing. I wish someone would come and do something with that building. So thank you again for looking to invest in the city of Harrisburg.
Of course.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green?
I don't have any questions on this project right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bowers?
I don't think I have any questions. I too participated in some of the community public meetings. Oh, actually one question that came up, and I'm not sure if you addressed it during your presentation during that meeting, was relative to green infrastructure. I know that was something, one of the questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if I heard a response.
Yeah, and Councilwoman, I remember that question. And well, it's certainly something we consider. if it's going to cost a bunch more, I don't know how feasible it is. The limit of my borrowing capacity is we're sort of hitting it in terms of the assessed value of the project after it's completed versus, how much this will cost. So if it's feasible to do, we'd love to do something like that. I'll have to, work with the contractor throughout the process and see if we can incorporate those elements.
Okay, thank you. My other questions were already asked relative to affordability. As you know, the council is considering an affordable housing legislative package. So it's nice to know that at least one of the 5 units will be deemed affordable for our residents. And I'm hopeful that either a women-owned business or a minority-owned business could benefit from your commercial space. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, was there any other further questions or comments?
Sorry, just one. Well, yeah. So are you going to be participating in the LERTA program or anything like that? I just want to know if these are properties that will be on the tax rolls, or is this going to be a LERTA property?
That's a great question. I do intend to plan to apply for LERTA. And because of the nature of the fact that it's more than 70% residential, I think it'll qualify for 10 years of full abatement.
Okay. And then I guess on the last piece on the unit, since it is going to have, you're planning for 5 multifamily dwelling units. Are you looking to work with, I just want to encourage you to make sure you're working with Public Works to ensure that you have the right size of receptacles. One of the complaints that I hear as Public Works Chair is that commercial properties don't have enough receptacles or go for a dumpster. So just want to make sure there's some coordination there. So if you're looking at to have the commercial business will have one, and there's enough receptacles for any for the tenant should they be able to move it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, I mean, I plan to be one of the tenants in this building, so I certainly want to make sure that there's somewhere to put all the trash, and it's livable for me just like everybody else.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other further questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll recommend that we put this resolution up for a vote at our next legislative session. And that concludes the business of the Community and Economic Development Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. We now will move on to public comment. Ms. Houston, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment for tonight.
Okay, council members, have a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry. Mr.
There is one hand. There's
a hand. A hand just got.
There is a hand.
Okay.
Up. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Houston, please.
Hang on 1 second for me. We have Kamika Campbell, and then there is one after.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Kamika, you're able to speak.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Kamika Campbell, Chapoke, area of Harrisburg. I wanted to clarify one thing with the last presenter on the building at 1507 North 3rd Street. That retail space, I was just looking on Looped as they were talking. Is that $15 per square foot for retail space per year and not month? That's right?
Well, right. So, but you would obviously subdivide the cost by a month. So my intention would be to divide it into 12, about $1,000 a month for the size of the space, a little more than that. Okay,
so this retail space is 820 square feet, is that right? And then
correct.
That would be the whole space on the bottom is 820 square feet?
So that's the only commercial space. Okay. The way we've designed the first floor, and I think this was one of the hangups with prior developers who looked at the building. The first floor of that building, the footprint is about 3,000 square feet, which is pretty big. And if you ever look at the first floor, at least right now, it's pretty expansive. And I think most businesses in Midtown, particularly small businesses, it's just too much space. So my idea was, hey, let's put a couple apartments on the first floor. That'll sort of shrink the commercial space. It will also, we change the layout of the first floor to allow for a dedicated commercial entrance with the big windows, which I think will make it much more attractive. And so my assumption was that I would get more interest in an 800 square foot place at about $1,000 a month than I am at a 3,000 square foot commercial space that's going to require.
Okay, so there's only going to be one shop down there potentially.
Correct. There's going to be, at least this is my plan, there's going to be one commercial space in the street facing part of the building with the big front windows and the double doors. And then the residential access will be on the side through the parking lot at 1511. That will lead directly into the residential units. It'll also lead to a stairwell that will go up. So the commercial space will be entirely separate from the residential space.
Okay, got it. Okay. And then my other question is, we've been asking this question every week, so we'll just keep asking it of everyone who has a project. So one of the residential units is going to be affordable, allegedly. And I'm just wondering what we're basing affordability on and what are our definitions for that as we try to, make sure that folks who live in Harrisburg and already live in the area have a shot at being in something like this once it is completed.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll speak to sort of what I perceive that as. So market rate. So I own 2 duplexes that are in the neighborhood. And those duplexes have 2-bedroom apartments in them. And I can readily rent a 2-bedroom apartment, first floor or second floor, in the $1,200 to $1,400 range at present in Midtown. So I think like that's sort of what the market will bear for a unit of that size. And that's what I intend to charge in most of the units. One of the units is going to be a little smaller than the others, and I plan to charge at or below $1,000, which is 20% lower than I can get sort of in the market. And that's sort of how I view it in terms of affordability. I mean, it's just much lower than the market rate. And it'll be 2 bedrooms. And so, if one was splitting it with someone else, it's $500 a person, which I perceive as affordable.
Okay. So what I would say there is, I think, and this is not just for you, but this is for everyone who's been developing that we've been asking these questions, is we really need to interrogate our understandings of affordability in the climate that we're in, number one. And number two, given the historical and current, I would say, nature of Harrisburg rents. Like, we literally have folks who are renting out $1,200 for a whole house, and then we're talking about $1,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So these are just things that I think are difficult conversations, but I think we really want to pay more attention to that and really just think about what that means for residents. Because honestly, you'd be pricing out a whole bunch of people for a 2-bedroom apartment. We're talking. It sounds like the person would most likely be single. Most likely be, having an income where they could put 33% of their rent, if it's $1,000 for one person in a 2-bedroom apartment, towards that. If we're doing it on an income-based kind of like rental thing. And also, I don't think affordability can be based on what you can get for very expensive apartments, right? So that's the other piece to that too. So just those things to think about, I think, are very important. And that's my only questions for the gentleman with the property at 1507 North 3rd Street.
Okay.
And then my last comment is it's just going to be the same comment. If we could start thinking about access and ease of access to these meetings. We did notice, and we've been commenting on them week after week. We know that the written portion of the public comment has been taken away. So we're still asking for that to be reinstated so that folks who cannot make it, maybe right after work, they can have their voices heard, and also other multimodal ways for people to join into the meeting. Maybe opening up a comment section, maybe doing some other things like that, so folks can be a little bit more involved. We do know that we get a lot of participation by doing that, just with some of the community meetings that we hold every week. So we're just encouraging our city council to think of multimodal ways to involve this residents of Harrisburg in these proceedings each week. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Jordan, is someone else?
There was, but it doesn't look like this person, excuse me, is there anymore. So it looks like that's it.
Okay, thank you. Council members, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening.
Thanks you all
Have a
too.
good night.
Good night.
Good night.